Tonight on Eric Mintel Investigates the Interviews, Eric interviews Steve Allen, first witness to the 2008 Stephensville, Texas UFO sighting, an encounter that has still not been explained to this day. Right here at Eric Mintel Investigates the Interviews. Welcome to Eric Mintel Investigates. I am so honored and so excited to talk to my next guest today. We've got Steve Allen from Hyco, Texas. Steve was the very first person that came forward with this incredible encounter in 2008 of the Stephensville, Texas UFO sightings and encounter. It made national headlines. Steve's been on a lot of the different UFO programs. So for him to be here today, I really appreciate your time, Steve, on this. And, for my viewers that maybe don't know your story, maybe kind of give us an idea of maybe recap what happened back in 2008.
Be glad to. Thank you for having me, Eric. It's an honor to be on.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you for doing what you do. It'd been a bad winter. This was in 2008, and it'd been exceptionally cold in Texas. And one of my friends called and says, "Can you come over and spend the afternoon? We'll have a little campfire on the hill and have a little fellowship and just shoot the breeze and talk. And by the way, can you bring some beer?" Okay, is a dry county, so I said I agreed to it. I got off of I had a trucking company at the time, had like 180 big trucks on the road and drivers and everything. That's where this gray hair come from. I'm only 18. No,
I hear you, man.
But so anyway, I show up over at his place at, near Stephensville, Texas, just out on the outskirts at a little town called Selden, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it is isolated, no traffic noise, no wind noise, anything. It's just a little after 6 p.m. I step out of my pickup to go greet the two guys that's at the campfire there. And I start to light my cigar and I drop it. I bent over to pick it up and I noticed some lights coming at us at a very high rate of speed, unusually bright lights. I've never seen them in that area before, from moving from the east to west. Very, very bright, very fast. I first estimated it to be 3,000 or 4,000 miles an hour, which sounds incredible, but that's what I thought. I fly that area. I'm a private pilot, so I'm familiar with how it's gridded and everything. So as this craft came by, you could see the lights on the outer perimeter of it, real bright, about the size of a pickup truck, real high intensity, bright lights like a magnesium flare, just ultra bright, almost burn your eyes to look at them. But there, you could only see the perimeter of the craft, and it looked like it was a giant rectangle, approximately a half a mile wide and about a mile long. Sounds incredible, but there were several of us that was there and seen it. As it came past us, it had 7 lights in the back of it, blinking in no particular order. And it came to a stop over Stephensville, Texas. We're just watching it. We're about 3 miles out, and we're on kind of a grassy hill where you could see had an unlimited visual 360 degrees. Came to a stop. Those lights in the back reconfigured to an arch shape, and they're still blinking, no particular order. And then the 7 lights went to a vertical shape, and then a split second later, 2 sets of 7 lights blinking, and these are just sitting in the sky and we're watching them. And then another split second, it looks like they burst into a kind of a white colored flame that was contained in a rectangle box, looked like to me, is what I thought. And then it just disappeared. It didn't streak off or anything. One of the gentlemen that was with us, I'll just drop his name. He won't talk about it. His name is Lance Jones. He got in his car, didn't say goodbye, see you guys later, or anything. It shocked him so bad, he just left.
In the heart of beautiful Bucks County, you'll find Peddler's Village, a village of shopping and dining, a village of family fun, a village of elegance. Visit Peddler's Village today and make memories that last forever.
So we go down to my friend's house. I went to the first grade with this guy, Mike Odom, and told his wife about it, Claudette, and she didn't believe us. And we invited her to call. She says, "I'm going to call. Where'd Lance go?" And we said, "He took off." And she says, "I'm going to call him." And we invited her, go ahead and call him. And she calls him up and he says, hurry up and run outside. It's coming back by. So we went back outside. This time it was even closer to us. It rattled the windows in the house. Is about 2,000 foot above ground level. and it was going faster, and you could hear the jets in the background. And we counted like 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Here comes two F-16s, full afterburner, in hot pursuit after it. And we watched it go off into the east. You know, it did a 180 degree. It came from the east, and it went back towards the east, somewhere in the area of President Bush's house at that time. And we have a nuclear plant in Glen Rose. So I can't determine which direction exactly it was headed towards. If it was headed, it could be just a coincidence, but those two big items was over there.
Sure.
The next morning, I call our local airport where I keep my airplane, and the guy says, gee, we had the flu. We wasn't at work today. This was in 2008, but we heard a lot of military traffic. That sounded very unusual. We never hear that in this area. We have military operating areas nearby, but not in our area, you know.
Yep.
And they said, we'll check into it. So they called Fort Worth Tower and checked into it. And they said, no, they kind of was unfriendly with my guys. And they usually talk pretty much, you know, on a friendly basis, and not daily, but they talk every so often. And they thought that was a little unusual. And I thought, well, I hit a dead end. I'm going to call the newspaper. So I called the newspaper, and the manager or the editor says, do you mind telling your story to a reporter? And I said, no, I'll be glad to. Maybe somebody inadvertently got a picture of it.
Yeah.
You know, it was a beautiful sunset that day, and maybe we can get a picture of it. And I had a flip phone at the time, and needless to say, it wouldn't pick up anything like that. And no time to, at 3,000 miles an hour, you didn't have any time when it came by. Huh. So we had no pictures. The next day it came out on the front page of the newspaper. I'd made the mistake of putting my phone number in it. I have a business. We had quite a few phone lines. All lines was lit up. I become the new UFO reporting hotline, I guess. There was massive amounts of people that seen it. I recorded over 200 people.
Wow.
And I'd ask them the pertinent questions. What time they seen it, which direction was it coming from, which direction it was going, what did you see? And a lot of these stories matched up. And the last question I'd ask, would you be willing to go public or not?
Shanghai jazz has been a staple of gourmet cuisine and incredible live jazz for over 20 years. Owner Tom Donahoe has created an atmosphere where good food and good friends can gather for an unforgettable culinary and musical experience. And don't forget to check out the new Encore Lounge downstairs. Choose from a variety of drinks and wait for the show to begin. Shanghai Jazz, your destination for jazz.
Right. And so the constable calls me, Leroy Gayton, and he says, gee, I can't do that. I'm an elected official. They may not vote me in next time. They'll think I'm crazy. And I said, come on, Leroy, I need a little help, a little credibility here. And I'm kind of by myself with this. And, you know, without a bunch of people helping that's got some clout around here, it's just a story. And he says, oh, what the heck? Throw my name in the hat. And I didn't know any of these people that had called me. I'm not from that particular area. I live 15 miles down the road, so I didn't know anybody. Wow. Next thing you know, a few days later, Larry King from CNN and his crew, actually Larry was on remote in Hollywood, I guess, and he sent his crew down to Stephensville. We was on Larry King's show. A few days later, we was on O'Reilly Factor on Fox, Good Morning America. Discovery's done several bits on it. Of course, the Netflix deal's still running, UFO Encounters. It's a big one. It was a worldwide success the first day. The whole series they did, they was diligently trying to represent all the stories that they was doing. So
oh, I know. And I mean most of those shows, it's, you know, since then we've been following this because Steve, the other thing here, which is it's connecting, is we out here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, at the same time, we had a similar UFO flap happening out here. And a lot of people were seeing the same thing that you were seeing. It was these multiple lights. Thousands of people saw this thing. What I wanted to ask you was, when that came over and it was so close to you, did it make any sound?
Had zero wind noise, no engine propulsion noise, no hum. You know, people say, oh, I heard a hum or heard this, heard that. We heard nothing. And like I said, we was so far out in the country, you know, even the birds don't go there hardly. So
did it feel like when you were looking at this thing, how did you feel? What are you thinking?
Thank you for that question. That's very important. It was a roller coaster of emotions. When I first saw it come by, it was like they connected to me. I had the most peaceful, easy feeling I've ever had in my
Wow.
life. It was like we was connected. I think they was more connected with me than I was connected with it. I get excited over an airplane flying by, much less one of these, you know. So
Yeah.
that felt that was very unusual at the start. When it came back by with the two F-16s in hot pursuit behind it, I thought, what in the world is going on? Are we having a war of the worlds or what? Because these F-16s was chasing it with vengeance. I mean, they had full afterburner. I know what an F-16 is. I fly, I
Yeah.
go to air shows, all that. You know, I know some people that actually fly them. Why was we chasing that in a public area? You know, if it was one of ours, you can test it out in the desert. You can test it at the ocean. You can test it military operating area. So what's it doing in population here? So
Oh
that,
yeah, totally. And then didn't the report say that there were no jets too? There were
yeah,
like jets. That was a whole
yes,
cover up too.
stuck with that story for a week or actually 10 days to 2 weeks. A Major Carl Lewis, I hate to drop all these names, but that's who it was at Carswell Air Force Base, which is now the Naval Air Station in Fort Worth, Texas. So the reporter would call him and make all these comments and accusations, and he'd say, "No, we didn't have any F-16s in the area. Nobody has ever contacted me. Gee, what did you see? What could it have been?" So he'd tell the reporter what he thought it was. He says, "We've got it figured out. It was a reflection off of a high altitude jet airliner." The reporter told me that, Angela Joyner, and she's passed away from COVID, unfortunately, but he told me that, and I said, you know, it just hit me wrong. You know, instead of saying, "Oh, gee, that's interesting," or asking a question, he's trying to explain it away. And I said, it was a reflection off of my shiny white ass, is what it was. And I thought about
Yeah,
that after I said it, and she went and told him the whole thing. And you know, I've been quoted quite a few times on what I said and how I felt. It just hit me
sure.
wrong. You don't try to explain this away. Let's figure it out.
If you want to see more of Eric and I in this kind of environment, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, ring that bell,
On YouTube and Facebook.
and Instagram.
When people are clocking out, Dom, we're clocking in.
A few days later goes past and they call back. They said, "We definitely have it figured out now. It was a refueling tanker." And I said, you know, he could be right. It could be a refueling tanker, but it sure wasn't from Earth. And so they went silent again for a few days, and then they issued a press release saying, "Well, we did have 10 F-16s in the area." And so we thought that was quite remarkable.
Wow.
Director of MUFON in Texas, Robert Powell, and I did a bunch of experiments with my airplane to see where the radar would pick up at. So he did a Freedom of Information Act on that day and the days where I did my little test with the radar in the airplane, compiled 2.5 million pieces of data, him and Glenn Schultz. And sure enough, there it shows it coming in at 2,100 miles an hour and going back out at 1,900 miles an hour. So I was only off 1,000 on my estimate on the speed. But the radar data analysis concluded and showed it had two F-16s following it, and we saw those. But what I didn't know, it had 4 F-16s on either side of it. So we had a total of 10 F-16s out there in Stephensville, Texas, you know. And what do you think about all that? And I said, you know, an F-16, I don't know what they cost, $200-300 million. If you misplace 10 of those, and it takes about 1,000 people to get one in the air, a crew, you know, surely you would know where several $100 million worth of aircraft and your crew is at all times if you're running the Air Force base there, or the Naval Air Station rather.
Yeah.
And so it went silent again, you know, but the radar report sure vindicated, I guess. I didn't feel any vindicated. All I know is what I saw, but it sure backed up some of our story there.
And I think, you know, clearly nothing that we have could go that fast.
Well, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Plus, stop right over Stephenville within a second or two, you know, we'd be liquid, you know, from just the G forces.
And just the fact that you didn't even hear anything. You know, it's funny you say that you got connected to this. I've been saying this in all of our research where I find that people are connected to these things. I do subscribe to the fact that we do work on frequencies, I think, you know, as humans. And
Absolutely.
I think there are certain people that feel that vibration. And maybe that's the feeling that you had when you saw these things. And
Very possible. Because prior to that, I didn't give two hoots about a UFO. No, I thought, well, out of the millions of galaxies and universes, and we're the only intelligence here, and we're not that intelligent to start with.
It's the first annual Bucks County Paracon, Saturday, March 9th, from 12 to 7 p.m., with featured speakers Nick Pope from Ancient Aliens, Bill Burns from UFO Hunters, Eric Mintel and Dominic Sattel, Eric Mintel Investigates, MUFON Section Director Jim Krug, Bigfoot researcher Eric Spinner, and the legendary Tom Carey. An all-day paranormal extravaganza, also featuring paranormal vendors, food trucks, all happening Saturday, March 9th, 2024, 12 to 7 p.m. Tickets available at ericmintelinvestigates.org. We will see you there.
Here we are in 2024, and we're all talking about UFOs, extraterrestrials, because people are having these experiences, and at the end of the day, people are seeing something. That's what I always leave with, that like people are seeing something, and I never discount what people are seeing. But here we are talking. Would we talk about this as freely back in 2008 as we would be today? Now the government's coming out and saying, hey, look, guys, the UFOs that you've been seeing, they're real. We just don't know what they are.
I think they have a little control and know a little bit, but I think the majority, you're right. I think they have no clue and they have no control, or it wouldn't be showing up at Air Force bases and over nuclear launch centers and everything else, if they had control of it. I want our updated technology before we run our planet into the dirt. I value our planet and where we live. I don't want to trash it for our next few generations, which we're doing. And I can order, say, a cell phone. Before I get it, it's outdated. I need my updated flying device or my vehicle to get around in. So the size of the thing was astounding, is what got me. And I'm thinking dollar signs because I had a large trucking company, 18-wheelers, and we did flatbed, pipe, steel, lumber, whatever. I thought, gee, I could put 12 of those on that and be in LA in 30 minutes and unload and be back before lunch. So that was my vision of, and it'll take all those trucks off the road. There's no more diesel going in the air, and this can be very fun and profitable. So,
wow.
That's my vision, what I was looking at it.
We've had another flap out here at the beginning of last year and into basically all of last year that we did a video on. And people here were seeing the same object, this low, brightly lit object, multiple lights, silent, hovering, but we still don't know what it is, though, but we're still getting video. And I mean, you got a video. What, your brother, was it your cousin or brother-in-law?
That's my cousin.
Your cousin
shot that day before yesterday, and is one of the most incredible video I've seen in a long time.
I'm going to show that video right now. So stuff is still happening out there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Have you had more sightings since 2008?
No, I wish I could say I did. It's one of those deals you see it once in 50 something years and you never see it again or whatever.
I know, right?
These people that see something every day, you got to watch out for that. But I do look up a lot more than I used to.
I was going to say, how has this changed you?
Well, let's back up to 2008. I drove home that afternoon just after that happened. I get to my house and I don't say a word. My wife looks at me. At that time, I'm a different wife now, but she looks at me and she could tell I was visibly shaking. And she says, "What happened?" And I told her what happened. She says, "Whatever you do, don't tell a soul about it." And I said, I just kind of looked at her and I said, "Well, why is that?" She says, "People will think we're crazy." And I said, "I'm not out for a popularity contest. I don't care if they think we're crazy or not, So she says, well, just don't tell anybody. So the next morning, of course, I do what a man usually does, just the opposite of what his wife would want him to do. So I get on the phone and tear it up. Next thing you know, here we go.
Yeah, well, and this is that's something that, I mean, you can't keep quiet about it, because and we're so glad that you didn't. Because
yes, absolutely.
nobody would know.
Absolutely. We've had Brazilian film crews, Japanese film crews, lots of people from England come out to the location where we shot it at. They see a lot of things out there. There's been some cattle mutilations quite a few years ago, several decades before that. So the Japanese kind of filled me in on what they think. They said, what do you think it keeps coming and going from here for? And what's the significance of Stephensville? And I said, at the time, it was the dairy capital of the world. And all of them, and they was talking in Japanese. I can't understand Japanese. So one of them, named Rose from Austin, she spoke English. I said, what are they saying? And she says, well, you explained everything. And I said, tell me. And she says, well, if it's the milk capital of the world, they like milk. And I'm thinking, how in the world do y'all know they like milk or not? I'm a little skeptical of everything. Yeah. And after I've added 2 and 2 together, we've had some cattle mutilations out here. And if you're zipping across the universe, you can't pull into McDonald's or Dairy Queen and get a milkshake. And you sure need vitamin D. No wonder they look a little gray and sickly. So yeah, that could add up. I bet they got them some test tube cows, and they didn't understand what comes out the backside of that cow. And they probably said, let those earthlings go ahead and grow that. That's something we don't want to handle.
That seems to be a recurring theme, though, Steve. That seems to be a real recurring theme with not only cows, but with elk, deer. There is a great show called The Missing 411, the UFO Connection. I'm sure you've seen it, David Paulides.
Yes.
And the connection, how the cattle and elk are being taken for whatever experiments. Could it be the same thing here? You could see that you were really shaken up by this thing.
Oh, it rattled me to the core.
Totally
One reporter that was covering it for 2 weeks, she said, she came down on the second week and she says, you look horrible. What's wrong? And I said, I haven't sleep. I can't sleep anymore. It just won't allow me to sleep. And she says, you better do something, because you don't look good at all. And so I went home and looked in the mirror. Yeah, I don't look good, do I?
Wow.
Do I? So I was in New York last month on the Tamron Hall show. Amazingly enough, there were some people that saw me up there that got to looking at me and talking to me. That was ironic to be spotted in New York City. They're kind of busy with their own thoughts. So
how's life now for you? You're still doing a lot of talk shows and interviews, and that still goes on, right? But life goes on too, right? You're still living life.
Life goes on. Life is great. Hard to describe. I've retired from my trucking business and gave that up. That's a relief. I enjoyed it and it was fun, but about 40 years is enough of that. So
that's a lot. Yeah.
Kick back and enjoy life. And we travel a little bit. That's about it. So
that's awesome.
Just blessed.
That's awesome, man. So what I'm thinking that we might need to go on site, Steve. We might have to come out and visit you and hang and do some video out there. Would that be cool?
Oh, be glad to. Come on down. It's a little chilly, but we'll wait.
we'll wait till it gets warmer.
Weeks, it'll change.
Well,
that's what awesome. They say about Texas weather. If you don't like it, just wait a day and it'll change, and it does.
And you've been in Texas your whole life, right?
Yes, I was born and raised here. Yes.
Wow, that's great.
I'm a 5th generation Texan. My great uncle was the last man out of the Alamo. He went to go get help. Needless to say, he didn't make it. So.
Oh man. So you got a lot of history. You've got a lot of really great history.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
That's awesome. We haven't hit the tip of the iceberg yet, Steve. I have a feeling that you're going to be on again.
I look forward to it. Thank you for having me, Eric.
Absolutely, man. Well, listen, be safe and let's do this again. I'll reach out to you. We'll figure out another time and we'll do part 2.
Perfect. Come see me too.
Absolutely. You got it, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, Steve.
Bye-bye.
You